From last class, we saw Jacob going back in the direction of Haran, where his people originally came from. He was going there because Esau was angry enough at him to kill him, and also another reason was he was in search of a wife that he wanted to come from his own people rather than from the Hittite and Philistine people that were around them where they were. So he comes back and immediately meets Laban, the brother of Rebekah, his mother, Uncle Laban. And he also meets a couple of Laban's daughters, Rebekah and Leah. And, Rachel and Leah. Very good. And immediately is attracted to Rachel and bargains with Laban for her, agreeing to work 7 years for her. And lo and behold, Laban dealt from the bottom of the deck here and substituted Leah. And he found out he was married to Leah instead of Rachel. So he agreed to work another 7 years for Rebekah. I'm sorry. Rachel. I got it right. Then I corrected myself back to the error. I'm sorry. At any rate, Rachel and Leah became Jacob's wives. And he worked a series of 14 years for them. And then after that, he began working for Laban in another context as well. What's interesting is that as soon as Jacob arrived, Laban saw him and said, you shouldn't be working for me for nothing. So they come to an agreement that I think Glenn has had success here. Good, thank you. Yeah. At any rate, they come to an agreement that Jacob will work for the animals out of Laban's flock who are off color or spotted or defective in some way or another. At least these were regarded as less valuable animals. So they came to that agreement. No sooner had they come to that agreement than Laban takes all of his flocks that don't have these spots and other defects and moves them 3 days' journey away, so that there just be no possibility they'd come in contact with the ones that do have the spots. Okay. So, in spite of Laban, as soon as he meets Jacob, telling him he shouldn't work for nothing, if Laban's devious plan had worked, he would in fact have been working for nothing. So Laban is a fairly slippery kind of a character, and Jacob is as well, as we have seen. So I think the two kind of deserve each other in a certain way. So it looks like Laban's got things set up so that Jacob's not going to receive any of the livestock for his wages, but there's a counter at work as well. I'd like to start at chapter 30, verse 37. I'd like to get a volunteer reader for 37 to the end of the chapter.
Thus he made separate flocks for himself, and did not put them
Okay. So Jacob sees what Laban's trying to do, and he hatches this plan with the poplar rods, and exposing them to certain of the animals and not certain of the other ones. One would not think this would be a scientific way of producing any kind of a desired result in the animal reproduction, but no doubt there's divine directive behind this, or it never would have worked, obviously. And so, in spite of Laban's determination to cheat Jacob out of any wages whatsoever, we find that the counter is true, and Jacob becomes extremely prosperous while he's living there in Laban's proximity. Okay? Now, let's read on into chapter 31. I'd like someone to read the first 9 verses, please.
Jacob heard that Laban's sons were saying, Jacob has taken everything our father owned and has gained all this wealth from what belonged to our father. And Jacob noticed that Laban's attitude toward him was not what it had been. Then the Lord said to Jacob, go back to the land of your father and to your relatives, and I will be with you. So Jacob sent forth word to Rachel and Leah to come out to the field where his flocks were. Is that where you want to?
At 9.
He said to them, I see that your father's attitude toward me is not what it was before, but the God of my father has been with me. You know that I've worked for your father with all my strength, yet your father has cheated me by changing my wages 10 times. However, God has not allowed him to harm me. If he said, the speckled ones will be your wages, then all the flocks gave birth to the speckled young. And if he said, the streaked one will be your wages, then all the flocks bore streaked young. So God has taken away your father's livestock and has given them to you.
Oh, great. As this chapter opens, we see Jacob sensing that maybe it's time to go back to where he came from. What 2 things do you see there that tell Jacob this? Yeah. Okay. His plan to cheat Jacob out of a living didn't come through, and in fact, the opposite is the case, that he's getting the majority of the livestock. Also, what else? Yeah, Laban's sons were saying, hey, this guy came from outside. This foreigner came in, and he has manipulated, and he's taken away all of our father's goods, goods that upon our father's death would probably be ours. So you can see the jealousy there. And so, but I think the overriding thing here, it's not spoken in this passage that we read, but I think the overriding thing is, this is not the land that God gave to Jacob. This is not what God promised to Jacob, and God wanted Jacob to get back to the land that he had given to him. So let's read on verses 10 through 16, if I could get a reader for that passage.
In breeding season, I once had a dream in which I looked up and saw that the male goats mating with the flock were streaked, speckled, or spotted. The angel of the Lord of God said to me in the dream, Jacob, I answered, here I am. And he said, look up and see all the male goats mating with the flock are streaked, speckled, or spotted. For I have seen all that Laban has been doing to you, and I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a pillar and where you made a vow to me. Now leave this land at once and go back to your native
Okay. Now, Rachel and Leah have known nothing except living in this area with Laban. And so you can see a little bit of hesitation on Jacob's part, suggesting maybe we ought to leave here. But when Jacob brings the subject up, what's the daughter's response? Yeah. It hasn't been any picnic for us either. You know, you've been suffering, but we've been suffering as well.
They may have detected the fact that their dad was a sneaky snake in the grass, right?
Yeah. I think that's become pretty apparent to them as well as to Jacob. Okay, and they felt like they had been cheated themselves. All right, let's read on verses 17 through 32.
Then Jacob rose and set his sons and his wives on camels, and he carried away all his livestock and all his possessions which he had gained, his acquired livestock which he had gained in Padan-aram, to go to his father Isaac in the land of Canaan. Now Laban had gone to shear his sheep, and Rachel had stolen the household idols that were her father's. And Jacob stole away unknown to Laban the Syrian, and that he did not tell him that he intended to flee. So he fled with all that he had. He arose and crossed the river and headed toward the mountains of Gilead. And Laban was told on the third day that Jacob had fled. Then he took his brethren with him and pursued him for 7 days' journey, and he overtook him in the mountains of Gilead. But God had come to Laban the Syrian in a dream by night and said to him, Be careful that you speak to Jacob neither good nor bad. So Laban overtook Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the mountains, and Laban with his brethren pitched in the mountains of Gilead. And Laban said to Jacob, What have you done that you have stolen away unknown to me and carried away my daughters like captives, taken with the sword? Why did you flee away secretly, steal away from me, and not tell me? For I might have sent you away with joy and song, with timbrel and harp, and you did not allow me to kiss my sons and my daughters. Now you have done foolishly in so doing. It is in my power to do you harm, but the God of your father spoke to me last night, saying, Be careful that you speak to Jacob neither good nor bad. And now you have surely gone, because you greatly long for your father's house. But why did you steal my God? Then Jacob answered and said to Laban, Because I was afraid, for I said, Perhaps you would take your daughters from me by force. With whomever you find your God, do not let him live. In the presence of our brethren, identify what I have of yours and take it with you. For Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen it.
All right, it's no coincidence that Jacob chose the time of the shearing of the sheep to make his exit, because that tends to occupy everybody's attention. It takes several days, and so he calculated that if he left during this time period, they would be preoccupied with sheep shearing, and they would have a pretty good head start before Laban recognized what had happened. So Laban finally gets told that Jacob has fled, and he pursues him for 7 days. And at any rate, Rachel has, in the meantime, when they packed up to go, stolen Laban's household gods. Why do you think she did that? They were. Yeah. Okay. All right. Have something that belonged to her father. Okay. I thought of that. Yeah. She obviously knew this was something very important to him. So if she takes it and it comes up missing, she struck a blow, and the relations are strained, and so this might have happened as well. Also. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay, Mark. I think we have to accept that as a possibility. It's never said that she adopted the God of Jacob at all. And it may be that she felt like by taking these gods from Laban, she was stealing, some power from him.
I think, though, too, John, I think, because I'm assuming Jacob discussed it with her and talked about the business center and how he does the thing and the mating and the animals and all of that stuff. And I think she could see it blatantly, unless she's blind, the God of Jacob, and Abraham and Isaac for that matter, was blessing him richly.
Yeah.
And so I questioned that. I'd analyzed that thing too. Did she believe in the God?
Yeah.
And I think the proof's in the pudding, man.
Yeah.
It is happening for Jacob.
Yeah. Okay, Austin?
It's also possible that she did believe in this God, but might also believe in others as well.
Okay.
Like they were saying, your God is
Mhm.
still
Yeah. Okay. All right. Steve? Possibly, but yeah, but at that point there wouldn't be anybody back in Laban's place to tell him about it, because they've all vamoosed, Right? So, what prevented Laban from harming Jacob and his family? God, okay. If it's not apparent already, Laban gets yet another reminder that God shows a special favor to Jacob and his family, and he knew better than to actually do some harm. Now, as we read the part that where Laban said, let's see. I'll find it here in a second. Anyway, Laban said, if I had known you were going to leave, we would have had this wonderful celebration, and we would have had entertainment, and yeah. And as that was being read, there was a lot of skepticism in the class, and I guess I would share that skepticism. All right, what reason did Jacob give for leaving Laban in secret? Yeah, he's afraid. You're not the most trustworthy guy. I feel like I've been walking on quicksand here the whole time I've been with you, and. Yeah, that's why I said they really deserve to meet each other. Okay, Catherine. Esau's birthright and blessing. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also the changing of the wages 10 times, as Jacob said. You put all that together, and it's pretty treacherous situation. This is quite a family, isn't it? Okay.
I think I would have taken off to another country. Since she was your wife, there's no way I'd want to roll it.
You would have left a long time before, right? Yeah. All right. So when Laban finally catches up with Jacob's family, he complains about his household gods being missing, and Jacob steps off into some pretty dangerous territory here, unbeknownst to him. What does he say? Oh yeah, if you can find these gods in my household, whoever has possession of them, you can take their lives. Well, turns out the person that he cared the most about was the one in possession. So, not a good move on his part. He didn't, but it still seems kind of rash. All right, 33 through 42. Could I get a reader for that?
one of your relatives and mine, and let them judge between the two of us. I've been with you for 20 years now. Your sheep and goats have not miscarried, nor have I eaten rams from your flock. I did not bring you animals torn by wild beasts. I bore the loss myself. And you demanded payment from me for whatever was stolen by day or night. This was my situation. The heat consumed me in the daytime, and the cold at night, and sleep fled from my eyes. It was like this for the 20 years I was in your household. I worked for you 14 years for your 2 daughters, and 6 years for your flock. And you changed my wages 10 times. If the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had not been with me, you would surely have sent me away empty-handed. But God has seen my hardship and the toil of my hands, and last night he rebuked me. Laban answered Jacob, "Women are my daughters."
Okay, that's 42, where I wanted to go. Okay. Look at verses 38 through 42, where Jacob admits that Laban had, this is my phrasing, had out-Jacobed him. Do you think this experience was valuable to Jacob as a lesson learned here? I think so. I think so. Later on, when he meets up with Esau, we're going to see a personality that's a lot different than the one we've seen earlier. And the shoe got on the other foot, and he didn't like the way it fit. And so I think he began a pattern of changing his ways. And apparently, the whole time that Jacob worked for Laban, there was never any complaint about the work that Jacob turned in. He was very honest in his dealings with, and worked extremely hard, and was apparently very good at what he did. All right, let's read on. Verses 43 through the end of chapter 31.
David answered Jacob, "Women are my daughters, and the children are my children. All this is mine. Yet what can I do today about these daughters mine, or about the children they will have? Come now, let's set a covenant, you and I, let us serve as a witness between us." So Jacob took a stone and set it up above that stone. He said to his relatives, "Let us stone." So they took the stone and piled it up, and they ate there about 5 days. Laban called it Jacob's Sabbath. Jacob called it Galilee. Laban said, "This heat has witnessed between you and I, even today. That is why it was always called together. It was also called Israel, because he said, may the Lord watch between you and me when we are away from each other. If you mistreat my daughters in order to take the land beside my daughters, even though no one is with us, remember that God is a witness between me and you." David also said to Jacob, "Here is the sheep, and here is the pillow I have set up between you and me. The sheep is a witness, and the pillow is a witness. But I will not put past the sheep to your side of the line, and that you will not put past the sheep and pillow to my side of the line. May the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, Jacob, and the God of their fathers bless you." So Jacob took an oath in the name of his father Isaac. He offered a sacrifice of the real covenant and invited his relatives to the meal. After they had eaten and slept the night, early the next morning Jacob fixed his tent and his daughters and blessed them. Then he left and returned home.
Okay, I'm constantly amazed at the possessiveness of Laban. What does he say in verse 43 that's really not right? Yeah. He says, the daughters are my daughters. He doesn't make mention of the fact that they're Jacob's wives at this point. And then everything else that you're carrying along with you, all these vast herds and everything belong to me. Well, Laban, did you not agree about how this would work out? And now you have regret. So,
Good politician.
yeah. well, yeah. So anyway, if you want to go into business with Laban, you'd want to have an attorney on speed dial, wouldn't you? You'd want to be ready. Here's some artist concept of household idols or gods. They tended to be small. They could be carried easily, and this might be what they looked like. And they would necessarily be different from larger, more public gods that might get erected in cities or something like that. So they were very, very portable, and that's maybe what Laban's looked like approximately.
I've read that when they excavated Jerusalem, that they found in the living spaces countless gods just like that right there.
Yeah, that's entirely possible. Yeah. All right. Now we're going to move on into Jacob and Esau being reunited after 20 years of separation. I think this is a really pivotal point in their two lives, as well as a pivotal point in the story of Genesis. I'd like somebody to read the first 8 verses of chapter 32.
So Jacob went on his way, and the angels of God met him. When Jacob saw them, he said, "This is God's hand." And he called the name of that place Mahanaim. Then Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau's brother in the land of Seir, the country of Edom. And he commanded them, saying, "Speak thus to my lord Esau. Thus your servant Jacob said, I have dwelt with Laban and stayed there until now. I have oxen, donkeys, flock, and male and female servants. And I have sent to tell my lord that I may find favor in your sight." Then the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, "We came to your brother Esau, and he is also is coming to meet you, and 400 men are with him." So Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed, and he divided the people that were with him, and the flocks and herds and camels into companies. And he said, "If Esau comes to the one company and attacks us, then the other company which is left will escape."
Before we go into this particular passage, I left out something at the end of chapter 31. That is, Jacob and Laban build this pillar, but they can't even agree on the name to call the place. Each one of them comes up with a different name, and they basically say, "You stay on this side of the pillar, and I'll stay on this side of the other side of the pillar, and that's how we'll get along." So Jacob goes on his way. And in verse 1 it says, the angels of God met him. What's the significance of that? Yeah, I think it's a symbol of protection. I think it's God saying, "I'm with you, and it's time to quit avoiding Esau. It's time to reconcile. It's time to make this right." So Jacob sends messengers ahead of him. And he sent the message is, "Hey, I've got all that I need. I've been prospered. God has found favor in my sight, and all is well with me." So the messengers deliver that to Esau. They come back and what do they report about Esau?
400 dudes.
Yeah. Why send the messengers in the first place?
Just the water.
Yeah, okay. So if there's any hostility, I think there's some information that got left out here as the messengers came back. It seems to me like it's a great omission. They come back and they say, "Jacob's headed this way. He's got 400 men." I'm sorry, Esau. Okay, he's got 400 men. Yeah. Is Esau foaming at the mouth here?
No indication whatsoever. They got a sword strapped on, or where we at here?
Yeah, we're back. We're back. So Jacob wants Esau to understand, even before they meet, that there's no, as far as he's concerned, there's no hostility left. And it's time to bury all of that. All right. Verses 22 through the end of the chapter, please.
That night Jacob got up and took his 2 wives, his 2 maidservants, and his 11 sons, and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. After he had sent them across the stream, he sent over all his possessions. So Jacob was left alone. And a man wrestled with him till daybreak. When the man saw he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of his hip, Jacob's hip, so that his hip was wrenched into his wrestle with the man. Then the man said, "Let go, for it's daybreak." But Jacob replied, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." The man said, "What is your name?" "Jacob," he answered. Then the man said, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God, and with man you have overcome." Jacob said, "Please tell me your name." But he replied, "Why do you ask my name?" Then he blessed him there. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, "If it is because I saw God face to face, yet my life was spared." The sun rose above him as he passed Peniel, and he was limping because of his hip. Therefore, to this day, Israelites do not eat the tendon attached to the socket of the hip, because the socket of Jacob's hip was touched near the tendon.
Okay, so Jacob sends his people on ahead, and he's alone on one side of the river. And it says that a man wrestled with him until daybreak. Now, identifying this particular individual is kind of difficult, because in that place it refers to him as a man. Later on, it talks about it being God. And then if you read in Hosea, it refers to this incident and said that he wrestled with an angel. So, what was he wrestling with?
And I questioned the daylight, almost daybreak. What's the deal with that?
I had never thought of that. Catherine? Yeah. I came to the same conclusion myself. God is certainly behind it, and the fact that it's not God in person, actually, it has to be an angel or a messenger from God. But and the fact that this being cannot overcome Jacob tells me it's not actually God, because I think God could overcome Jacob. And then he was certainly in the form of a man. So you put all that together. I think it was God working through the agency of an angel in the form of a man. That would be my explanation of it. Okay. Yeah, he got injured. Had some wounds to show. Now, this man says that let me go because it's almost daybreak, and Jacob says what? Yeah, you have to bless me. Okay, so what was the blessing? The name change. All right, what's the significance of this name change? It happened to Abram and Sarai.
Jacob wasn't a good name. I think it means trickster.
Yeah, supplanter. Yeah, that wasn't one you'd be proud of. Okay. All right. So getting rid of that one would be good, I guess. All right. Anytime there's a name change coming from God, it signifies that you have entered into a new relationship with God. It happened in the case of Abram and Sarai, and it happening Jacob as well. What does Israel mean?
Struggles with God.
One who struggles with God. Yeah, one who struggles with God. And you might think that might not be real complimentary, but in a certain way it is. In a certain way it is. It signifies that you're not going to leave God. You're not going to abandon him, but you're going to stay and struggle. And it won't be easy. The journey won't be a walk in the park, but you're going to stay and you're going to struggle together. I don't think the idea is struggling against God, but it's struggling with God against a lot of other issues. All right, so now I think we're ready for the meeting. I don't know if we've got much enough time here. Consider this question. Compare Jacob's placement of himself in the approach to Esau before the name change, back in verse 16, and then after the name change. Look ahead to 33, verse 3. Compare that. Okay. All right, but I'm talking about where he puts himself. Yeah. Okay. Behind them means I'm gonna count on all these other people to protect me. And as after this name change, he steps out in front and he says, "I will take whatever risks are there before I allow my family to be harmed." Okay. I think that's another significant change in his outlook. All right, that's all the time we've got. We'll pick up at the beginning of chapter 33 next week, and we'll resolve Esau and Jacob's relationship. I'm sorry, 2 weeks. 2 weeks.